and Go. Everything powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia. Oh, man, back to back? This is how we doing? This is a Victory Sunday? We had a Victory Thursday. Now we on Victory Sunday? Oh, God, man, it's feeling good. It's feeling good. All right, man, it's time for the Washington Commanders post-game show. The Washington Commanders defeated the Green Bay Packers 23-21 up in FedEx. I'm your host, Wole, Ray, Mo, and Glenn are out, but I'm not alone. We also have Adam and Eva from the Burgundy and Gold Report. Also, we got the homie George. Hey, what's going on, fellas, and how are you feeling today on this exciting Sunday?
Almost had a heart attack after that last one. I really thought they were going to score. I thought Green Bay was going to score, but Taylor Heineke isn't a good quarterback. He's a gamer. He's a good gamer. Yeah. And I said it before this. I thought he still gave us a better chance than Wentz because a lot of those plays, Wentz is taking the sack on that. Yeah. I think he has a worse day. So I think for this particular matchup, Taylor stepped up when he had to. But, man, the quarterback is still a big issue for this team.
Oh, definitely. George?
Taylor Heineke's a very lucky quarterback. That's what he is. He's a very lucky quarterback. And Washington was a very fortunate team today. But give them credit. I thought at 14-0 they were going to circle the old drain after that pick six. Yeah. I thought they were no chance after that. And to come back in the fashion that they did, man, Green Bay, somebody said it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Green Bay's soft. And they are soft. They are big time soft. And I could between seeing Rodgers and Brady both, because I'm in North Carolina, so I had the Panthers game until that game was over. Then I had the Washington game on. Seeing Rodgers and Brady just stink it up today, that just fills my heart with joy.
It makes you feel good. I know that's right. Hey, also subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search all Burgundy and Go Errrything. Also tweet us at ABG_Errrything and hit us up on IG at ABG_Errrything and like our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything Facebook page. Don't forget to subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything YouTube channel as well. So we talked about, let's dive deep into it. I'm starting with you, Adam, and George. You kind of talked about a little bit, but and both of you too. Beginning of the game, like it was going to be like a blowout, like pick six. I mean, every pass that Taylor Heineke was throwing seemed to be close for an interception. But, going through this game, your thoughts on this game, the game plan of Scott Turner, the defense, your thoughts on this game?
To win a game like this with no interceptions, no sacks, they had the muff punt recovery, and that was the difference. That was the difference in this game. And Chicago, too. It was the difference in Chicago. So special teams gets it again. Percy Butler got that recovery today. So as far as game plan for Turner, man, he sucks. He's still one of the worst play callers. But I have to say this, as bad as he is, that Green Bay play calling is horrible. They were running the ball. If they just kept running the ball, like, where was Dylan? Like, Jones is awesome, but Dylan, too, like, they're killing themselves. But last week against the Jets, they're like, all right, next week we're going to go back to run the ball. They had success and they ran away from it. So, man, to me, I feel like although Taylor really stepped up and made some, gamer plays when he had to at the end, it's more about, Green Bay lost this one because I really think they could have established the run and just really nulled us to death and then taken some shots. But you could clearly see Aaron Rodgers, he didn't have that zip. That thumb is bothering him. After almost every other pass play he's holding his hand. He doesn't have that zip. So I think that's the difference in this game.
George?
Matt LaFleur not running it on 4th and 1 when it was still a 1-score game was just mind-blowing to me. You've had one of your best drives of the game since the first drive. You're running the ball well. Why in the world wouldn't you give the ball to Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon there? Matt LaFleur is getting exposed. He's not very good either. One of the things that I can't stand is all these great coaches that were on the Washington staff under Jay Gruden. Well, let's put a line through Matt LaFleur because he's not good. But let's give Scott Turner this. In the second half, he actually helped Taylor Heineke because he said, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, you are the foundation. And when that happens, this team could actually be halfway decent. And next week, when they play Indianapolis, same stinking thing. Run the football, hide Heineke as much as you can. This is, in one sense, it's no different than the 4-game winning streak last year.
I Agreed.
None whatsoever. They hid their deficiencies on defense and their deficiencies at quarterback by running the football early and often and maintaining and possessing the ball and keeping the clock on their side. Do the same thing. Robinson, I'll tell you what, when you think about this guy being shot twice in the preseason, he could be 1,000-yard rusher this year if it wasn't for that. I really believe that. That guy, you're not knocking him back. You hit him, he's still going to go forward. He's still going to fall forward. And they're finally using Gibson right. Get him outside. Get him in space.
Perfect.
That's where he's best. So I'll give Scott Turner a tick on that. And I don't like Scott Turner. And I think Adam's absolutely right that a lot of his play calling still stinks, but he at least did the right things in the second half, and he really did the right things to help Taylor Heineke. And that's why Heineke, after a terrible start, actually looked halfway decent.
Yep. Yeah, I'm wearing my lucky Washington Redskins hat, because like 2 days in a row, it's got a W. Two games in a row, they got a W. So I'm a Rocket. So, you know what I mean? I know some people will hate it, but I'm a Rocket. But in terms of, for me, my thoughts on the game, and this is for the Heineke hive. Initially in the beginning of the game, I tweeted it. I'm like, this is your king. And basically to me, this is your king. This is what you want. And, we saw this last season. I think people have to understand that we saw this last season. When you try to make him into this drop back passer and try to say, hey, Taylor Heineke, when it's a football game, it comes out ugly. I don't want to hear about strong arm. I don't want to hear about accuracy, this, that, and the other. I'm going to say it again. When people describe Taylor Heineke, you never use adjectives to describe quarterback play. What I mean by that, you don't use he has a good arm, he's precise. You don't use he's accurate. You don't use that he anticipates. You don't use that with Taylor Heineke. What you use is that he's mobile and he has heart. That's all you use, and he knows the playbook. This is what you use with Taylor Heineke. If you're listening to, you're watching the show, you're calling me a hater. These are your own words. I'm using your own words for you. This is what you tell me every time you talk about Taylor Heineke. But that being said, in this game, he was clutch. He made some clutch plays. He is a gamer. Adam's right. He's a gamer. No one's arguing that he's not a gamer. You know what I mean? Not at all. What I can say, I can use this argument. I feel like I'm fair to say this, is that, if you did utilize Carson Wentz in running the football, you can have a better record as a football team in terms of some of the production on the offense. Everybody has stated this. Adam has stated this for over, in terms of Gibson, Adam's been stating this for a while. But in terms of, you have a Brian Robinson, this is a guy that you do want to showcase. You have a guy in Gibson who was a 1,000-yard rusher last season. You have an opportunity to highlight the running game. This is your chance. This is what you can do. If you run the football with a two-headed monster, you limit a Carson Wentz. You limit a Taylor Heineke, so they won't make these big mistakes. So you can put them in a situation to succeed. So I feel like, in terms of Scott Turner, I want to see what you're going to do with this formula. Because are you going to go back and say, you know what, Taylor, try to win me a football game? Because I'm going to be honest with you, and the Green Bay Packers defense throughout this season hasn't been the greatest. They have players, but it hasn't been the greatest. When you play against the Philadelphia Eagles, when you play against the Dallas Cowboys, when you play against some of these better defenses in the NFL, you think those passes are going to be dropped? You think those passes are – no. So, yes, he came up big. He made some big plays. Call me a hater if you want to, but I'm just keeping it a buck. Like, when you playing against the better teams, just like if it's the better defense, just talking about this defense has played better, but when they play against the better offenses, will they show out? We don't know that. Like, I could say that if they're playing against Pat Mahomes or something like that, they'll probably give up 30. Same thing applies for the offense. If Taylor Heineke's playing against a team that's a solid defense, he only had one interception. That one interception is probably 5 interceptions in that game. So so that's my thing. Again, great win. I'm happy about it. Like, I'm happy how the defense played, though they didn't they weren't as impactful as, say, we've seen them in the last couple of weeks, but also they didn't give it a big play. So I was happy with that.
I'll tell you what, one thing that I put on Twitter, where the hell was J.D. McKissick? I don't know if I missed something. Yeah. He wasn't on the injury report. I don't know how you don't get him involved in that.
He was there, though.
Yeah, he was there.
He got one touch, right? He got one pass thrown to him.
I think that was, between that, and I'll tell you, and I wrote about this guy a couple weeks ago. Armani Rogers is a guy, I'm telling you, he's a guy that you can use as a Swiss Army knife, former quarterback. I think, the first time he ever lined up at tight end was at the East West Shrine Bowl.
Okay.
Dude is fast too. That's what a lot of people don't know.
He's an athlete.
He's the fastest tight end on our team,
Mm-hmm.
and you see what he can do in a Wildcat. I really hope that before next week we're going to see more implementation with him. You know, it looks like Turner could be out. That looks like concussion, so he could be out.
That's a concussion. That's a concussion.
So,
another Heineke setup ball. Another Heineke setup ball. But FYI, like the reason why Turner's not playing because he got set up. But I'm sorry, Adam. Go ahead, continue.
No, that's good. But like these little things, and again, we're not going to see much innovation from Turner. But these little things are the kind of plays that can really keep them in close games. So I'm hoping that see more J.D. McKissick next week, and Antonio Gibson. I want to see him more out running routes because you see what he can do, and I'm hoping it finally clicks in their brain that they can use him wide because right now. They can't rush back Jahan Dotson. And I don't know, Samuel, he was still in the game, but you see he was grabbing his groin on the sideline.
I was scared about that. I was scared for that.
I am. And so I think they need to start looking at that a lot more.
And Wole, you made the point about the better teams. The Giants won today, so there's still 3 behind them. Yeah. The Cowboys won today. There's still 2 behind them. There's still 4 behind Philadelphia in the loss column. They got 4 division games left. Can they beat any of those teams playing like they did today? The answer is no. The answer is no. Taylor Heineke threw 33 passes and got 200 yards. That's not going to cut it in this league. Not unless you either have an elite running game or an elite defense or both. So I think that's the thing that people are going to I know what it's going to be like in Washington. I know what it's going to be like on social media this week. I just know it. They're gonna be all the Heineke Hive folks and the people that engage that are going to be sitting here and they're going to be saying, see, we told you he played well. He didn't play well, and he didn't play well enough to beat those teams. They might be able to beat Indianapolis playing like this next week because Indianapolis is absolutely rotten. Yeah. But they're not going to win because that's the thing. They pretty much have to win all their division games to have a chance. If they even lose one of them, they're probably going to be on the wrong side of tiebreakers the rest of the way. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind. And then you're talking about, well, maybe the 7th playoff spot. Oh, okay. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too, people talking about Chase Young not making a huge difference. I want to see him back for one reason.
Okay.
I say you use him situational for the first 2 weeks he's in, but what he's going to do is he's going to garner more attention and he's going to free up guys like Montez Sweat-Allen. So, yes, he will make a big difference. Statistically, no. But just him being out in the field, I think if they can get him back for the next game, I think that's going to be huge. But, like George said, you're really playing a lot of catch up in the division right now. So to me, there's people out there that are tanking. I just want to see them be competitive. I want to see, what do they have going forward? What are they lacking? But I think there's no mistaking, right? Since Jackson's come out of the lineup, I think they've definitely played better. So,
they have.
And this defensive line needs Young.
Yeah,
this defensive line needs Young. They didn't get near as much pressure on Rodgers as I would have liked today. I thought,
not at all.
I thought Green Bay's offensive line actually did pretty well out there today, considering there's some of the issues they've got. So this line needs Chase Young. The people out there that dog him and say he's a buster stuff. Oh no. Chase Young is going to be necessary if this team's going to have a miracle revival. If they have any chance of a miracle revival.
And just looking at them not getting pressure. I thought Aaron Rodgers did a good job getting the ball out quick. I thought he did a really good job getting the ball out quick.
He did a good job moving. That guy.
That too. I think that it would have been an easier target, but I thought he did a good job, moving in and getting the ball out quick. So it could have been better. Like compared to what we saw the last couple of weeks. I agree with you, George. Like it's not. They didn't put enough pressure as we expected. But I do think he did. You could tell that there was definitely a thorough thought process for them to get the ball out quick. Like that was definitely the game plan. We're going to get this ball out quick. We're not going to have you try to freestyle some plays. We're going to simplify the offense. I think that was the thing that he talked about in that press conference prior to this game. So they definitely simplified some things. So, but I do, in terms of like the defense and what Adam said, I think they've been better since Jackson's been basically benched, and they didn't give us a big play today, which to me is good, like compared to what this defense has done over this season. But I'm gonna be positive for the Heineke Hives. So I'm gonna start with you, George. What are some of your positives with Heineke's play?
The positives with Heineke's play is that he didn't hang his head after that awful start. That's the biggest one, because he was really rotten in that first half. And again, fortunate that fumble that was returned for a touchdown, wiped out by something 20 yards away that had nothing to do with it. Again, right call, especially based on what's happened to Washington
Right call.
in this game, in the season. Remember that game against Dallas? We had 2 penalties away from the play that wiped out turnover. So again, right call. But the one thing you can say about Taylor Heineke, he has that amnesia that you need as a quarterback to forget the horrible play and just get on with the business. I mean, that's the biggest positive for me there. And to throw the touchdown to McLaurin was a hell of a throw. No question about it.
It's on the money. It was on the money. Adam, what about you?
Yeah, just like that. He's good for one of those a game. That Terry McLaurin, like a precise shot. But unfortunately, you're going to deal with 5 or 6 passes that are just totally short or off the mark. But what I love,
you're like me. Go ahead, continue, Adam. You're just like me. Go ahead.
Feelings, man.
Heineke fans are gonna hate you. You're just like me.
It was the quick twitch today because there was so many times he was dead to rights, and Wentz going to take 6 sacks today. I guarantee you, he takes 5 or 6 sacks. So it's the quick twitch. It's the not the throw anticipation, just the pressure anticipation, because he had multiple times on completions there was free rushers on him, and that guy was dead to rights, and he just popped it over him. Should have been a tip ball, but I'll give him that. I want to see more of this, because if we continue to see more of this, this will let the front office and everything know you don't pay Wentz to come back next year. You don't play him for the rest of the year and get that second round taken away from you. So the positives to me is he did enough to hopefully keep the team realizing that Wentz was a mistake, and let's just move on from that. Let's play out the season and see what we got. But as far as the rest of the season with Taylor Heineke, again, he was durable last year. I'm not sure if he can take a beat. Not that he really took a beating, but I'm not sure he can go up against some of the better teams and
that's the thing.
A healthy offensive line. So they're gonna, we saw some RPO at the end. We need to see a lot more RPO, because that's the only way that's going to keep him from getting hit in the pocket. Third down and shorts, they have him in shotgun. They got to stop with that. Yeah,
for me, with my thing positives about Taylor Heineke is that getting your playmakers the ball, man.
Yeah,
like he gave Curtis Samuel an opportunity to make plays, Gibson an opportunity to make plays. Obviously, Scary Terry. I mean, that's the one, right? Terry McLaurin. That's the one. He has. I think, regardless of where you are with Taylor Heineke, we all have to acknowledge that he has great chemistry with McLaurin. And I've said this before. I know he'll throw up those lame ducks or whatnot, and could get McLaurin hurt. But at the same time, he gives him the opportunity to make the play. That's right. Like a play that Carson Wentz may think about. I may not be able to make this play. Heineke's like, I don't care. You're the best player on the team. I'm gonna give you the ball. Like, that's something that I think we can all value with Taylor Heineke. It's like, all right, you don't care. You know what I mean? When it comes to Terry McLaurin, like, you don't care. He's near it. I'm gonna throw it, and that's the thing that you kind of like. It's the gift and the curse, right? Because that can create a turnover. But we all complain about get Terry McLaurin involved, get him involved. But Taylor Heineke's all about that life. Like, he is going to get Terry McLaurin the ball. So I'm gonna give him that. Obviously, to me being a gamer, for getting that interception and playing better in the second half. I think the second half did him right. Like, the first half, I still think, even though after interception he was still shaky, I still think he was shaky because the muff kick. The punt recovery kind of changed momentum, like Adam said. So I do think that kind of settled things down a little bit for him. But in terms of like the second half, that's to me where he kind of like got over the interception. I don't think he really got over the interception in the first half, because that first half was still putrid. I saw people on Twitter and even folks. Moose was like, "Oh, he settled down." Like, he didn't settle down. He was still horrible in the first half. The whole first half he was horrible. But I think in the second half he settled down. So I'm gonna give him credit. I think he was in the second half to kind of alleviate all that stuff from your mind of what happened in the first half and bounce back. I think it's cool. Like, you look at Scary. Scary had about 73 yards receiving and a touchdown. You know what I mean? Curtis Samuels had a bunch of yards after the catch, about 53 yards receiving, but a lot of yards after the catch. Just giving you guys opportunity to make plays, and throwing that dime to also the first touchdown to Gibson was sweet. Gibson too, showing you wide receiver skills again, which
and return. Get Milne out of there, get him doing punt return and kick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with you, Adam, because that's a positive too. So we're gonna get off the Heineke things. I don't want this show to be about Taylor Heineke. positives for the team in general. Like, to me, that what you're talking about Gibson as a returner, but I want you to showcase your positives for the team as a whole.
Like you said, like everything we're talking about Taylor Heineke. I'll get to that later on in the week, but my article that's going to be coming out is going to be on Gibson, is using him right. I think, we're starting to get there, but I think if you really want to utilize him the right way, that's a guy, that's your motion guy. You can do everything with him pretty much you can do with everyone not named McLaurin. I think a lot of stuff you saw with Samuels, I think they're interchangeable with Gibson. So I think that, what you saw in college, I think there's a lot of people out there that think he was a receiving back. Because I had a conversation the other day. They're like, just because he had a lot of receiving yards in college doesn't mean he's a receiver. No. Although his body type is throwback and not like typical receiver, if you watch the tape, he is a true receiver. Granted, about 3 or 4 routes on the route tree that they really did at Memphis, and that has nothing to do with him. That just has to do with them. But look at what Memphis is doing with their guys coming to the NFL. You have Pollard. Now you have the kid in Philadelphia. They understand that by getting these running back / receivers, get him involved early in college. That, to me, right now, Memphis is doing the best right now for their backs transition into the NFL. Because the way that offense, and this is through 2 coaches. It wasn't just one coach at Memphis that did this. When they got another coach came in after Gibson, they're still running this. So I think that, getting him, involved underneath crossers, and then we saw on that touchdown pass, I think they have an opportunity to really blow it open, because you're talking about a 3rd or 4th receiving option if you're going wide. So I think that's something that we're going to see a lot more. If we don't, man, Turner is just even worse than we thought. But I do think and I think the one of the lessons they will take is Robinson. Again, we're talking about him as a runner, man. He's good. He's a good pass catcher too. So I think that there's no tells right now. That's what I like about this team. There's no tells that who's in the game, what formation they're going to run, if it's going to be passing, run, and play. So again, I said it before the game. Continue to put those 2 guys in the game at the same time. Figure out how to work McKissick in, and man, get Amani Rogers in. Those guys, other than Terry McLaurin, I think those are a nucleus of guys that they can really build off of.
So, George, what are your positives overall for this team? in this game?
This offensive line, which is beat up and has struggled a lot, I thought did pretty well today. I thought they did. I mean, the Packers got in there and got some hits on Heineke. That's going to happen. They've got a really good front, and they've got a pretty good front 7. I think Washington's offensive line more than held its own today, especially in that second half. And I just want to give them credit for that, and the fact that they kept opening some cracks and creases for Brian Robinson to power his way through. And there was some really good blocking on some of them plays with Gibson, especially by our wide receivers. That's another thing. Our wide receivers did some blocking today, and I love that. I think everybody loves to see that, because it's not, it sometimes isn't typical of wide receivers, but they were busting some tail out there today. So I think that's the big overwhelming positive to me. Again, I'm not sure this secondary and linebacking crew does better against anybody that's better than this, which is because, again, a lot of drops by Green Bay. But I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by how good the offensive line was.
Yeah, for me, I just thought that Gibson using him the correct way was it. I mean, him as a returner was amazing to me. Like, I felt like he needs, like Adam said, he just not kickoff returns. He needs to do punt returns. Like, we got to they have to change the whole dynamic of this team, like in terms of like switching the field, right? Because all was switching the field. I thought Gibson was special. You know what I mean? And just the toe tap swag. You know what I mean? On the back of the end zone for that touchdown. You can't do that with any running back. You can't really do that. You know what I mean? Like, as much as some of the great running backs we've seen in terms of pass catchers, other than maybe Marshall Faulk, a Kamara can't do that. Like,
that's right.
These dudes they catch screen passes or regular slants or whatever. But that type of pass or that type of catch, you're not going to get that from any other running back. And you got that capability with a Gibson, who is aware enough to get his feet down, drag him, and get to the back of the end zone and catch the ball clean. Like, that's a weapon, man. For real, that is a legit weapon that needs to be utilized. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, but the excuse was you didn't have a back like Brian Robinson to alleviate him for some of those with the carries and being a pass catcher. Well, you have Brian Robinson now, so there's no excuse. I feel like you should really utilize this a lot. And I may actually give Scott Turner some flowers in terms of another positive. It's one play though, so it's not like the whole game. It's just one play. It's the utilizing of Amari Rogers and in that Wildcat situation. I think you got to do that often. I mean, I know they did that with Logan Thomas, but they got to do that. That's a lot of speed you can do it with. You have so many weapons out of that formation with Curtis Samuel, Gibson, and even Brian Robinson. There's so much you can do with that. But I would even say just do it with Curtis Samuel and Gibson and Amari Rodgers, because it's so much you can do with that. Yeah, the speed.
Like
it's so much you could. Like I was so mad you didn't go back to it. You should have went right back to it. Like you should have went right back to it. Like that Taylor Heineke struggles in the red zone because his arm. Like you need some arm talent to get touchdowns in the red zone if you're going to pass the football. There's arm talent. There's smaller windows. So I'm not hating. I'm just being honest. There's smaller windows. So in that situation, like that's such a good play. And then even Taylor Heineke's a threat because he's a faster quarterback. There's so much you have in that formation that you can utilize it more. Like you could be redundant because there's so much you can do off of it. Like I thought like utilizing that play, and it's even better than having Logan Thomas run it. To be honest with you, like with Amari Rodgers, it's special because like Adam, because the speed. And he can keep it. It's the speed element of it. So I'm going to give him flowers for that. I thought that was to utilize that in this game, I think that was special. But on the flip side, I think that's something he has to do often. Like, especially with Taylor Heineke in the red zone. Like, that should be a red zone package where, you got to go to it. Sometimes, look, man, if you watch, like growing up here watching Joe Gibbs, sometimes you just know what's coming and you just can't stop it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have the formation, what's coming, you just can't stop it. Like that's a play where, to me, there's so much you can do off of it. You can say, "Oh, they about to do this," but you ain't gonna stop it because there's so many elements. You can give the ball. You can give the ball to Gibson on the read option, or Amari can throw the football. Like he can throw the football. He can run it, or you could do a kind of play with your eyes in terms of acting as if you're going to give the ball to Gibson and then give the ball up to Curtis Samuel. There's so much you could do off of it. Like play with the defender's eyes. There's so much you can do off of it. So I'm just like, to me, like, yeah, that was a great play call, but just keep doing it. If I'm Scott Turner, I'm doing that. That's a red zone special. Like I'm going to that type of play. But yeah, to me, I'm gonna give and that I'm gonna say, are my positives on the offense. And just to keep, and for the coaching staff, it's an adjustment. You made adjustments. You know what I mean? Like you didn't, like in the second half, it wasn't like, all right, you were going backwards. You were going forward. You made an adjustment. You were down 14-10. You took the lead. You know what I mean? You took a shot with a 37-yard bomb to Terry McLaurin. You know what I mean? So you made adjustments. So I'm gonna give you flowers with that. So I'm gonna go in terms of. But did y'all have anything to say about those positives?
Just one thing that I saw, and I think a lot of fans were even surprised to see the new fullback / tight end Amara. He will run at the end to keep that clock going. I want to see him more involved. I want to see him more involved in the blocking game. You're not going to see a total, turnover in some of the run plays, but Turner, if he's going to take a page out of his father's or anything out of the past, some I formations in there.
True.
With the line struggling, let's see some of that. So I'm hoping that he'll stick around for us next week. It sounds like he is, because if Cole Turner's out, I think that they're going to need flex fullback tight end. But I want to see more of him next week too.
All right, so I'm just talking about the positives. George, I'm starting with you. What were some of the negatives you saw? It's a win, but you got to talk about the good and the bad. So what were some of the negatives?
Oh gosh, the negatives for me again is what we just mentioned. Cole Turner, getting these guys hurt with some of these passes. My God, we can't have it. We cannot have it. It's. I mean, we all knew it was coming. I mean, all of us that were against Heineke starting said, he's going to get a receiver killed. He's going to get somebody injured. And I'm listening, and as soon as I hear, Cole Turner really came down on his back hard, I'm like, oh God, geez, what are you doing? What are you doing, Taylor? That's a negative. And for me, honestly, the secondary really got away with it today. If those receivers weren't dropping so many passes, they'd have gotten torched. They're not. I mean, they're better without William Jackson. I absolutely agree with you. There's no question about that. But they're not good. They're not good.
Yeah, there are some issues. Adam, what about you?
Yeah, like you said, these receivers aren't game changers that Washington stopped today. So I think there were some Packers fans that thought that Watkins might.
He's not healthy. I love him. I've always been. He's not healthy anyway. Sammy's not healthy
for the past years. But
the
missed tackles, man. There was just too many of those. Like, I like to see the final stat line, but there was a lot of plays that they left out. They could have had short gains. That's a big concern for me. And again, we can talk about the players, but it still comes back to Jack Del Rio, because if you same mistakes, over doing the ball, missed tackles. But again, the lack of aggression, like you hear the announcers talk about Washington is one of the top in the league of getting pressures with only, 3-4 fronts. It's not working. It's skewed because of the last 2 game statistics. Overall on the year, they're not getting the pressure. And today was another example of it. This was a battered offensive line. We should have seen some DB blitzes. We should have seen more stunts. It wasn't there. So to me, JDR was a big problem today. And I know that they held him in check, but I think Green Bay held himself in check more than Jack Del Rio did. So he's still a big concern for me of his lack of, game feel. And, we saw at the end that the potential Hail Mary, that's when he decided to do a blitz. Like that, most of the whole team in the end zone. But again, I digress.
Because A-Rod's scary. It is what it is. I get why you can't let that man throw a Hail Mary. That man can find an arm in a Hail Mary. For me, my negatives was wild. So my negatives would definitely be it's wild because I have to say, because I'm a hashtag fire Scott Turner type of dude. I can't go against my grain. So in terms of like, run the football in the beginning of the game. Like, why are you trying to showcase Taylor Heineke? Like, this is a thing. Like, don't show. Like, I feel like you're trying to prove a point.
I do too.
He could have easily, like, this could have been an easier game because I think if anybody has watched the Packers aren't good right now. It's a fact. They're just not good right now. They're not a good team right now. So why would you want to give number 12 an opportunity to get hot? Like, you know what I mean? Why would you want that? Ball control, win the game with your 2 studs and play action off of that. You know what I mean? Obviously Taylor Heineke, one was shaky and rattled initially, if you want to say nerves or whatever. But still, like, you have 2 guys, and you saw it in Chicago, 2 guys to help you win that Chicago Bears game. Lean on Gibson and Robinson. Stop trying to make this thing even difficult. Stop trying to make it difficult. So that'd be my negative. Like, going into this game, the initial game plan going for the first half, right? Like, because if it wasn't for a muffed punt, this game is a little different. You know what I'm saying? So that would be a negative. In terms of like the secondary, St. Juice was getting like that, the pass interference, the PI play. I'm sick of our cornerbacks overreacting to something that's not even anything. It was uncatchable. It was uncatchable, and I'm glad the referees kind of let us off the hook with that one, because it wasn't catchable because Sammy wasn't getting it. But what are you reacting to?
They're not playing the ball. They're
not. That's the same thing that William Jackson was doing, because William Jackson would be there and he just overreact. It's the same exact. So it's something that's, I don't know what it is. It's something that's been taught, or like it's not been like taught out of. Like, stop overreacting to like a bomb. It had like, just trust yourself, trust your ability, and trust yourself. Sammy Watkins should not be running by you at this particular point in time in his career. Like, trust yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so that bothered me. To me, I call that not being disciplined. They still have that issue to me at times when they're not disciplined enough. So, I mean, keep working on that. But I felt like all in all, in terms of what I saw on the football field, like, yeah, it wasn't anything super negative because it's a win. I can gloss over things when it's a win.
It's not quite a Chicago feeling win. It's a little
it's not that bad.
Just slightly. Yeah.
It's just slightly. It's not as bad as Chicago. It's a little bit better. But you know what I mean? Like, I still, at the end of the day, like, I recognize greatness because I'm a big believer, like, in Aaron Rodgers, regardless of like how a team struggles, Aaron Rodgers is great. Right? He's he acts a little punk at times, but he's still great. You know what I mean? In terms of finding people open. And you always have to, the fear factor always helps when you're a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So it does give you additional points because you're Aaron Rodgers. You get a fear factor. Like, you can't play it this way because it's Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that. So I'll give, like, to me, there was an improved play overall on the defense, because there's a difference between playing against Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields.
Right.
There's a big difference. You know what I mean? So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with their play. Hopefully, again, this could be something they can continue off of. But with you, though, I'm going to start with you, Adam, because I tweeted this and then everybody started getting on me. So this is going to be a little Taylor Heineke hate. I don't care. But I really don't care. If you listen to the show, say what you want to say about me. But so when he was throwing those passes, like, literally, like, the first 4 throws should have been picked off. I swear, I lie to you not. Literally. So I don't even know why anybody would say he played like great. I hate that adjective. Like, stop it. Like the first 4 throws, he gave you a pick 6. Like his first 4 throws should have been picked. That's a whole different argument. But anyway, back to my question. So say, like in that first half, right, the way he was playing, like, do you think they should consider playing Sam Howell?
I think he bought himself a little bit of time with this one.
Okay.
I don't think that you can take this performance and then just go to the rookie. I think you would have had to have him get sacked a bunch of times, 2, 3 receptions.
But the second half, though, but Adam, in the first half, like, say, I guess my question is, after that first half sample size, right? Would you have considered benching him for the second half?
I definitely consider.
Oh, okay.
I think definitely consider, because I think that, people are confused with Sam Howell. I've heard a lot of people say that he's the same person as Taylor Heinicke, and they haven't watched this former baseball player. Dude is a pinpoint the way he can put the ball. And you talk about those little short passes that Taylor Heinicke throws and hangs his receivers out to dry. That's one thing that I wrote about Howell pre-draft. He was the only guy that I wrote about pre-draft that came on the Washington. I said he had the best touch ball of any receiver in this class, and I stick by it. Of any quarterback.
I got you.
The best touch pass. So how does it translate now? Yeah, I think Howell could come in. People are like, he's not ready. I think he could come in and have similar to success. So that would be my clear answer. But I just don't think you could do it off the sample size that Taylor Heinicke put forward today. I think if you have a really bad game from him in the next 2 weeks, I think, in the next 3-4 weeks, that you can consider. But I do think that he'll do enough, because it's Indianapolis next week. If we had to go on an NFC East skid, that might be a different conversation.
See, it's wild, because everyone says Indianapolis is next week, and I just feel like there's weapon, because I think Indianapolis. I think their defense is like still talented enough to really bother Taylor Heinicke. I mean, you got one of the best middle linebackers in the game, in Darius Leonard. You know what I mean? Shout out to HBCUs. You know what I mean? So, but someone of the best, and there are going to be some issues. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. George, I'm going to ask you the same question. Were you thinking that for you, and were you thinking like maybe maybe Ron is thinking about benching Heinicke like ASAP, like now?
I was hoping not, because I was like this. Having based on the Haskins experience, I want Sam Howell's first appearance to be after a week of preparation as the starter. He gets ready to play. Sure. At the point of that where you're talking about, because I saw people calling for it, I'm like, don't throw him in there in this situation against that defense, especially that front, because I thought it would be trouble. I want to go back to something Adam tweeted during the game that was so right, and kind of link it to what you were talking about with Heinicke getting the ball to McLaurin and Wentz couldn't do it. There cannot be any circumstance where Wentz throws another pass for Washington this year. Not one. Whatever you think about Taylor Heinicke, it's like you said. He at least gets the ball to the playmakers. Carson Wentz could not do that. There's no reason to go forward with him. Another play, another year, another anything. This should be it for him. No more Carson Wentz this season. Cut him at the end of the year, save the money. That's it. That is it. And I'll just agree with Adam. I'll say this. If they do stink it up against Indianapolis and find a way to lose to them, because Indianapolis is bad. I know they got talent on defense, and I know they still got Jonathan Taylor. They stink. They're not good. The Titans quite easily accounted for them today, and that's even with Tannehill getting hurt during the game.
They win. They won.
If he stinks next week and they find a way to lose in Indianapolis and drop to 3-5, then Hal needs to be getting ready for the game after that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, my issue about like the Sam Howell thing is that, to what Adam was saying, is that it's not, if you're gonna have this is the thing, if you're gonna have a game plan just to run the football like this, then I feel like Sam Howell can run that system. He can do that.
Absolutely.
Do that.
Right.
33 throws for 200 yards. That's what Heinicke did today. Sam Howell could easily do that.
Yeah, the pass to I'll give. The pass that was already predetermined read. Like, that was going to scary. Like, that was going to Terry McLaurin. You could tell that was already going there. But argument saying if you was a perfect pass that Sam Howell couldn't make that pass, okay, we'll go with that. We'll go with that argument. I would deny it, but we can go with that argument. But you're telling me that some of those throws that when Samuel's wide open up the middle, like, would he just right in your face that he couldn't make that throw? I think he can make that throw. Like, that wasn't a hard read. These weren't hard reads. You know what I mean? But that's my thing. If you don't have that game plan, if the game plan is going to be more diverse, trying to run certain things, spread them out, call like in terms of audibles, whatever. Like Taylor Heineke obviously has more control. Then yes, obviously, if you weren't actually telling me, if you were telling me that who's going to throw the ball more, then yes, I would go the route of saying that Heineke should be the starter because he knows more of your offense. That makes sense to me. Like that legitimately makes sense to me.
And his experience versus NFL pass rushes, that's to be a clear
that's not
yes. Just because Howell can read and just because he did it in the preseason, this is not the same ball game. And
of course.
And he didn't really turn into any kind of dual threat until his last year at North Carolina because he had to. Because every single one of his weapons
were gone. They were all gone.
He was for, and including offensive linemen, so he was for that. But like George said, if it's going to happen, I want to see at least a full week of practice because he's got no connection, no work with Terry McLaurin. And like you said, you want to win, you got to give him the ball. So
yes,
but I don't see that too, and I don't like people using the preseason. When they use preseason, like, oh, well, he's going against guys who aren't we ain't going to make the team at third, fourth stringers. And that's true. That's valid. I am fair. I am one to say when your point is valid, it is valid. But also, as a rebuttal to that, he's not playing with Scary Terry. He's not playing with Curtis Samuel. He's not playing with Gibson or Robinson. So my argument is that he could be even better. Like those 5-yard slant passes that he may have thrown in preseason, instead of being a 5-yard reception, may have been a 15-yard reception because you're playing with better talent.
Yeah,
because you throw a slant to Scary, he's not going down. He breaks the first tackle. So I'm just saying, like, for folks who make that argument, just understand too that it goes both ways. It does.
And I would add this: he was up against one of the few teams in the NFL that takes preseason very damn seriously.
The Ravens, yeah.
and he almost beat them. And they haven't been beaten in the preseason for 6 or 7 years, whatever it is. So let's give him a little credit on that side too. He wasn't up against a team that didn't care about what they were doing out there. Those guys did care about it. And I think you're right about, he's not throwing to no names that weren't on the roster now. He'd be throwing to really good players. Yeah. I hope we don't rush Jahan Dotson back, by the way. We got to say that too.
I don't think so.
Don't do that, please.
But I will say this: just know about me and how I evaluate him. I had him as a late first rounder, and people
you told me
about that. He was a 5th round for a reason. Man, NFL evaluators drop the ball to especially on quarterback. So yes. I think Howell is a franchise type quarterback, but I agree 100%. You got to be careful what situation you throw him. So that's why I put that next 2-3 weeks as kind of that sweet spot. If they can go 3-0, I think there's no question. Just keep Taylor going. But if they split those and they don't look good, I think you seriously consider it.
Look, Adam, if I'm gonna be honest with you, if this fan base, if the Washington Commanders, Redskins, whatever, if they had drafted, just say they had a situation that Seattle had with Matt Flynn and Russell Wilson.
Oh yeah,
they would complain and say that don't play Russell Wilson. They play Matt Flynn. Yeah, and we know the story of that. So and Russ was a late round pick too, like a 4th rounder. Russ was a 4th rounder.
Yes, 4th rounder.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, all right, I don't want to hear about 5th rounders because at the end of the day, like to your point, Adam. Before last season, he had a 1st round grade. A lot of people rated him as a 1st round grade, like he's a 1st rounder. Something changed. Okay, something changed, but don't make it seem like he doesn't have the talent to be a 1st rounder. Right. You know what I mean? And especially again, I don't know if people understand. Like, I'm not talking about Taylor Heineke. Sam Howell against Matt Ryan. I'm talking about Sam Howell versus Taylor Heineke. Those are two different arguments. Right. Like we're talking about a dude who was a 1st round, had a 1st round grade at the time. Many people thought he was a 1st rounder. Or he went the 5th round to a guy who wasn't drafted.
Bailey Zappi was a 7th rounder. Look what he's doing with New England. And he doesn't have near the talent on offense that Washington's got. No, not even close.
Well, he doesn't have the coaching. He definitely has the better coaching over there.
Well, he's got Bill, but he's also got a guy calling plays that's not a real offensive coordinator. He got Matt flipping Patricia.
So true.
Not even a real offensive coordinator. So,
that's Scott Turner. Scott Turner.
Again, the whole argument, Sam Howell's a 5th rounder. Look what Bailey Zappi's doing and telling me Sam Howell can't come in and produce. It's nonsense.
No, I agree. That's my point. Like, I don't want to hear that argument. The argument's flawed. It's a flawed argument because, like, you can say, for instance, if your argument is that the playbook and this, that, and the other. Well, then you started Carson Wentz, and Taylor Heineke knows more of the playbook than Carson Wentz. If that's your argument, so what's your argument? Like, it's the playbook thing that because Taylor Heineke knows more of the playbook than Carson Wentz.
Draft position is so irrelevant because it's like when it comes to quarterbacks, just look historically over the last 25, 30 years, success stories have been in the late first round or past that. Not the top.
Dak Prescott
Way
is
more
what?
buck.
Dak
Round
Prescott.
4.
Dak Prescott took Tony Romo's job.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Ryan Fitzpatrick was a 7th round pick, I think, out of Harvard.
Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, that's not used. I hate the draft argument. You can see, my thing is that you can see, put it this way, you can see a baller when you see one. And I can also use it. I'll also use this argument. People I've had on the show who covered this team, I remember initially even I would ask folks like, how is camp? Who was the best looking quarterback? They didn't say Carson Wentz. They didn't say Taylor Heineke. They all said Sam Howell. So for that, whatever that means, so when fans come out and say, well, Heineke's the best option, I'm just telling you some of the people that you like a lot, when camp started, when we were talking about training camp, the dude they talked about was Sam Howell. It wasn't like, Wentz had his moments. He had his moments, but in terms of consistency, a lot of people talked about Sam Howell. So it is what it is. But let's just wrap this show up. Well, before I wrap this show up, y'all mentioned the Colts, and I'll let you all wrap out the Colts a little bit. Start with you, George. They got the Colts up next. How do you feel Taylor Heineke bounces back for this game? I mean, bounces back for this. Not bounces back. He played decent. Plays against the Colts. You know what I mean? Knowing that he has his W, some of his confidence. He probably has that tiny Heineke swag. Everybody's gassing him up. Twitter, Instagram. They're like, "Oh, Taylor Heineke, the best player in the world." How do you think he's going to feel going to the Colts? Will he throw a? Because everybody acts like a 2-touchdown game is like 5 touchdowns. Will he throw about 3 to 4 touchdowns in the game against the Colts?
No, he won't. Because hopefully, we're going to run the ball 40 times against the Colts next week. Because honest to God, I was following that game because I had taken Tennessee in the pick'em pool that I'm in, and Tennessee just bludgeoned them on the ground. I mean, flicking the doggone Tannehill, and some reports had like busted his ankle, and then he went back in there, which was kind of nuts. The Colts are not good. They are not good. Ryan is washed up. I mean, here's the other thing. Whether Chase Young comes back next week or not, Washington's defensive line better be getting in that backfield because that offensive line, I don't know what's happened to it. They're not any good anymore. Jonathan Taylor's struggling. Washington runs this football and this defense plays to their talent. They should win. But if we get 33 throws is about the absolute outer limit of what I want to see from Heineke. If I see a game where he's throwing more than that, it's trouble because the turnovers are going to come. The sacks are going to come again. That front seven is still good. Even if that team isn't, that front seven is still good in Indianapolis.
Adam, what do you think?
I'm just looking at the box score of this. The Tennessee beat Indianapolis 19-10 without throwing for a touchdown or running for a touchdown. But Derrick Henry ran 30 times for 128. I think it's clear. I think it's clear what Washington needs to do. But instead of one guy like they have, I think you use 3 or 4 guys with Washington. Keep them
more McKissick.
Tempo going on. Alex Armah, let's get him going. Just keep running that ball, whatever way. And then they can set up play action out of that. But I think it's clear that they went away from it even in this game, and they could have kept going. So to me, that's what they got to keep doing. And honestly, if they keep doing that, it'll open up things against a team like Indianapolis.
Totally agree. So time to end this show. So Adam, before we wrap this show up, how can folks catch you on social media? How can they catch your content?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at the B&G Report, lowercase r for report. Always find my content at the burgundyandgoldreport.com. I do a little show, B&G Report Happy Hour. Sometimes I chime in, but usually I have just send highlights, quick 4 or 5 minute videos. I'm not a big podcaster like you guys. Just like to get people, traffic going to my website because that's really where it is. We're going to start doing our player cards, looking at HBCU, small school guys. We'll look at those early on. A shame, our guy won't hit the transfer portal. So unfortunately, I had a great interview with him, but it doesn't sound like any movement's going to him. And I really had high him. Like last year, I had Williams going to Kansas City from Fayetteville State. So I have a little trouble right now finding a guy that's a real gem. But I'll keep kicking out prospects. I'll have player cards coming out soon. The burgundyandgoldreport.com.
Awesome. Hey, George, how can folks catch you on social media and catch your content, my man?
Follow me on Twitter at Temp the Rat. I have a podcast about VCU basketball called Rams Rewind. We've just done a couple of episodes looking at the VCU roster, and it just had Atlantic 10 Media Day. So we looked at where, the state of the Atlantic 10 Conference and where VCU sits in it. We did that with the guy from the 3-Bid League pod. It was a great pod. So check all that out. Check out all the episodes about the new coming players into VCU. Season's almost here. November 7th, our first game. So we're not even. It's barely about 2 weeks, if that. And we're gonna be into college basketball. So check all that out.
Amazing. College basketball
Can't wait.
is right around the corner.
Can't wait.
Can't wait, man. I know. I hope my Hoyas are good. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Gold Errrything. Also tweet us at ABG_Errrything. Hit us up on IG at ABG_Errrything and like our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything Facebook page. Again, do not forget to subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything YouTube channel. We growing. I need you to hit subscribe and like some videos, like a bunch of them, because the algorithm. I'm all about the algorithm. It's all about. I'm about that life. I know, and then YouTube pops them up. They're like, "Oh, this looks good. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, watch this." So like videos, man. Be about that life, man. Support me. Appreciate you. Anyway, man, it's dope having Adam, George on. Appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. Anyway, you've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold Errrything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia, for ages. You dig? Deuces, a mega. Lead us out, big homie.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see here, get out of this.